A peaceful treaty in jeopardy? Tall and strong foes. The Klingons return. Catwoman learns how hard is the rich woman's life, and the cast and crew make a field trip to the Vasquez Rocks Natural Park in one of the most exciting episodes of all of Star Trek.
As seer of the 10 tribes, I give you back your life. Mine is now forfeit.
Friday's Child is the 11th episode of the second season, and since it got 0 votes in the list, the reaction video has fled to Patreon, and in its place it left this poisonous, incoherent rant. This was a story full of loopholes, a dreadful wardrobe, and performances that make Jaden Smith look like Marlon Brando. I am the Sci-Fi Dog Lady, and I will talk about Friday's Child until the very episode looks me in the eye and say,
"You are tearing me apart, Lisa!"
This episode was written by D.C. Fontana, who had written the previous episode Journey to Babel, which was a great episode. As I told you last video, Journey to Babel was probably in the top 5 favorite episodes of the entire series. Was D.C. Fontana's writing talent and modern ideas enough to save this episode? No. Also, this episode was graced by Julie Newmar's beautiful presence. Was her striking beauty and acting skills enough to save this episode? No, actually no. This episode is also remarkable because this is the second appearance of a Klingon character. Tig Andrews plays this Klingon, whose name is so unimportant is never spoken during the episode. IMDb.com claims that the Klingon's name is Krass, but did any of us or the editor care? No. Now, a detail that I would like to point out is that this time this Klingon has no crazy eyebrows, no dark makeup, no Asian-looking facial hair, so I'll just assume that Commander Kor's appearance was simply a fashion choice? Yeah, in the Klingon military, of course it was. What's unexplainable to me is that even people who have never seen an episode of Star Trek, like myself 3 years ago, know that Klingons are important to the saga. However, in both episodes featuring Klingons so far, I've received 0 votes. Now, those votes come from you guys, so I'm just gonna say you are a tough crowd. But as always, let's make a very quick recap of this episode. But before we begin, remember that you can like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and also you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And if you really want to support my channel, you can become a patron or a YouTube member. I will leave all the links in the description box below. In a nutshell, Kirk and Spock are beamed down to a planet to try to make a deal with the seemingly primitive native species in order to obtain a very valuable mineral. But not only does this native species refuse the deal, but also our heroes learn that the Klingons got ahead of them, and now Kirk and Spock are forced to stay on the planet with no support from the Enterprise as they surrender their communicators and phasers. But I just used the wrong footage. Let me fix that, okay? So, in a nutshell, Kirk and Spock are beamed down to a planet to try to make a deal with the seemingly primitive native species in order to obtain a very valuable mineral. But not only does this native species refuse the deal, but also our heroes learn that the Klingons got ahead of them, and now Kirk and Spock are forced to stay on the planet with no support from the Enterprise as they surrender their communicators and phasers. Did I mention McCoy and this Walking Dead redshirt are also beamed down to the planet? Well, yeah, look at them. There they are. Now, am I gonna criticize the Capellan's wardrobe? Yeah. The tops and tights come from the 1930s TV series Flash Gordon. Kind of an underground story you guys have probably never heard of. The furs are obviously the result of the war the Capellans fought against the ponies. As soon as the Klingon appears, out of the blue, the red shirt draws his phaser, overstepping Kirk's authority. The red shirt is promptly dispatched by a Capellan using this Kligat. I mean, what was this guy thinking? The first thing McCoy said is,
"We come with open hearts and hands."
And this guy is wearing his phaser out there like he's Johnny Ringo. Now, let's take just a second to enjoy this picture. It's Michael Biehn in Mexico. So that makes this Capellan duck holiday. The Klingon starts bashing our heroes and reminds them that there is no war between Klingon and the Federation, so yes, Grant was an idiot. Or as Kirk calls it,
Young and inexperienced.
then why in the interstellar did you bring him to such an important meeting? You know what, whatever. Now you're just one crewman short and got the Capellan's distrust. The Capellan leader that disarms the landing party is Mav. That looks like a mix between the Monty Python's Black Knight and Eddie Munster. While being held in a tent, Kirk continues to complain about what happened to Grant, and he kinda doesn't seem to get what happened exactly.
We violated no customs.
Well, you got some weird customs back on Earth, eh? And then he dares to ask the obvious,
Perhaps you'll explain to me why one of my men is dead.
to which McCoy promptly replies,
Because he was drawing a weapon on another of their guests.
oh, but that's not all. Kirk doubles down and continues to justify Grant's actions.
Grant looked up, saw a Klingon, made a purely instinctive defensive move.
Defensive move, Kirk? Really? Defending from what? This Klingon was unarmed. He was not defending, he attacked. And since nobody backs him up on this one, he decides to chew him up, but don't worry because in after exactly 50 seconds, he apologizes.
Bones. I'm sorry.
Then this very pretty lady comes in with this big bowl full of fruits and offers it to Kirk, to which McCoy translates as,
Shown friendship by handing over our weapon. She's making a gesture in return.
but just as Kirk was about to accept this gesture of friendship, McCoy says that,
If you touch him, her nearest male relative will have to try to kill you.
WTF, McCoy. Wouldn't you just consider that will be the first thing to announce instead of your gesture of friendship? Whose side are you on anyway? Then our heroes are taken to another tent where they met Tyr Akar, who is...
I lead the 10 tribes of Capella.
And finally, Catwoman makes her appearance, and she shows that she's very pregnant. She is carrying Tyr Akar's heir. Mav and the Klingon are also in the tent. Kirk introduces himself and complains about Grant's death for the third time in 10 minutes.
First of all, I must protest the killing of one of my crewmen.
What would you have preferred, Kirk? That the Klingon got killed, starting a war between Klingons and Capellans, and being outnumbered by a bunch of really tall and strong armed men to whom you made McCoy lie to? Mav and the Klingons start speaking against humans. But McCoy gets on the ring too, and he humiliates the Klingon in front of everybody. Mav and Akar are in disagreement, but Akar stands his ground as chief. It's the Klingon's turn, and he points out how different Capellans and Klingons are from humans. And he makes a very eloquent speech that even Catwoman likes it. It's Kirk's time to speak for humanity, and he offers one of the most important things to offer.
Our laws.
Meaning that if they trade with humans, their planet belongs to them, unlike with Klingons, who...
Their empire is made up of conquered worlds. They take what they want by arms and force. Good.
This pervert face takes this as an excuse to make the human and the Klingon fight for their amusement. Tyr Akar seems to favor the humans, but Mav...
There are those of us who will not bargain with Earthmen Akar.
Why don't you want to deal with humans? Is there a backstory we should know about? Is he in love with a Klingon? Don't worry, we will never get to know. Tyr Akar pretty much says, suck it or fight against me, but he's a coward, so he flees away. Kirk asks for their communicators back so they can call the Enterprise, but Tyr Akar doesn't seem to care about what happens between Klingons and humans up in space. Meanwhile, in the Enterprise, Scott is in command, Sulu and Uhura are on their posts, and Chekhov is wearing again this dreadful wig. They have been alerted of Klingon presence in the area, and Lieutenant Uhura seems to catch a very faint distress call. Back in Capella IV, hits the fan and everyone is fighting everyone. We can also see the Tyr Akar bravely defending his tribe. Kirk distracts a guard and then he feeds him a fist sandwich. They find the Klingon desperately searching for something in the tent, and then he says,
I have no quarrel with you, Captain.
and 3 seconds later, he actually tries to kill him. But Kirk disarms him like nothing's nothing, but it was too late because Mav appears behind him and announces that Tyr Akar was killed off screen. Kirk offers himself to have a fight against the Klingon, and would you please look at the Klingon's face? This is sheer horror in his face. This guy is shit bricks. Mav begins to like Kirk and actually notices the fear in the Klingon's face. Back on the Enterprise, Lieutenant Uhura confirms the distress call from the USS Deirdre, and apparently they are being attacked by a Klingon ship. They try to contact Kirk, but he's obviously unavailable. Back in Capella, Catwoman is brought into the tent. Mav makes her trip with his sword because he believes a second-degree burn is very fun. Touching her is a death sentence, so Kirk refrains from helping her. Mav felt it was necessary to remind her that she is carrying AKR's heir, and she finishes his thought saying that she must die because of it. Mav gets his knife ready, but Kirk takes Catwoman out of harm's way as if he didn't have enough problems already. He starts a fight with the Capellans, and Spock tries to be his backup, but McCoy runs directly into this Capellan's arm so that he can be properly held hostage. They are quickly subdued though. And at this point, why are they keeping them alive? Because that's his name in the main titles. That's why.
No man may touch the wife of a tier.
Then why is he still alive?
She was prepared to die, Earthman.
Then why is she still alive?
I was proud to obey the laws. Kill him first.
Can anyone just tell me why is any of these people still alive? The Enterprise keeps trying to make contact with the landing party, but after hearing the distress signal from the USS Deirdre, Scotty decides to leave them stranded on the planet.
Prepare to take us out of orbit, Mr. Sulu.
Scotty, the captain.
Send a reconnaissance party with communicators. Don't do this to Kirk.
Take us out of orbit, Mr. Sulu.
You know, whatever. Back on the planet, Spock does what he does better, thinking.
Since no reconnaissance party has appeared,
Could have been there if only Scotty had sent one.
and since Mr. Scott is notably efficient in such matters,
Doubtful.
I must assume that something's keeping them busy.
Yeah, I suppose you got this one right. McCoy gives the universal signal for, let's improvise plans.
I'm gonna fix that woman's arm.
That's a very good idea, Bones.
Everyone starts getting into position while Kirk gets ready the ultimate weapon, the cushion. They take the guards down in less than 5 seconds and then they turn to Catwoman to make her an offer she can't refuse. She accepts the offer because...
To live is always desirable.
So they leave the Tenden's Gate. Back in the Enterprise, they keep searching for traces from the USS Deirdre, but they find absolutely nothing. Our heroes run to these hills, and if I may just comment on this is a beautiful location I totally approve. As they advance, they learn that
LEM hates the unborn child she is carrying.
Kirk and Spock decide to scout around this place to see if they can either defend it or have an exit. In the meantime, McCoy cures Catwoman's arm. Kirk realizes that the searching party behind them is closing in on them. She stays standing right on plain sight while he looks at his communicator. He tries to touch her, but she slaps him once. He tries a second time, and he gets slapped a second time. And then... the 60s. The times where you could slap a pregnant woman in the name of science and nobody would bat an eye. But apparently that was a medical slap which realigned her limbic system because from now on everything McCoy does is beautiful to Catwoman's eyes. Kirk and Spock keep watching as the Capellans get closer. I mean, if you can see them, they can see you, especially if you raise up your hand like that. And he keeps wearing blue. They keep standing on plain sight and they plan on creating a sonic disruption with their communicators. They get the communicators in position on this rock. Hey, Capellans, they're right here. The communicators create a sound that gets increasingly loud. They skate right on time and, hey, Capellans, they're right there! The communicators create an explosion that in all honesty looks pretty badass. It throws people and styrofoam rocks in every direction. Shut up. You fell from 3 feet high. What are you complaining about? The Klingon takes this opportunity to steal one of the phasers from one of the guards. Then he asks the Capellan to keep this knife safe deep in his chest. Now that the path is blocked, the Capellans have to make a 20-foot detour around this hill. Kirk makes sure that McCoy can deliver Catwoman's baby. And then for some reason, the episode believes that it has time to spare and it gives us this shot of Kirk making a tour around the park. 25 seconds! The Capellans walk around this hill for the second time. At this point, Catwoman still doesn't let anyone touch her, but...
Only McCoy.
But you gotta give her some credit. She's running for her life, heavily pregnant, running uphill, like a badass. Back on the ship, they still can't find any traces from the SS Deirdre. Scott asks Chekhov to replay the tape with the distress call. While listening to it for a second time, they realize that they called them by name.
Not a general distress signal, but one aimed right at us.
They give the audience a couple extra seconds to realize what's happening.
Trent, we were diverted from the planet.
Well, that seems about right. So, are we heading back to rescue Kirk back in Capella IV? No.
Continue search pattern.
The landing party finds shelter inside a cave, and Kirk uses one of McCoy's magnesite nitron tablets to start an eternal flame.
Pain is here.
Turns out that Catwoman's already having labor pains. Worried for her safety, Kirk asks McCoy,
How'd you arrange to touch her bones? Give her a happy pill?
No, right cross.
the 60s. Catwoman starts going into labor, and would you believe me that McCoy chooses this moment for this?
You must want the child.
Seriously, McCoy? This is the moment you chose to try to convince her to accept the baby? She's giving birth!
Say to yourself, the child is mine. The child is mine.
Yeah, it's yours.
Outside the cave, Spock and Kirk create bows and arrows. Guys, do you even know what arrows are supposed to look like? Have you ever heard the phrase straight as an arrow? Mel Gibson can make a better straight line doing a sobriety test. As the baby is born, McCoy invites the other two to go and join him. So they say, okay, whatever, it's not like we're in a hurry. I mean, look at those arrows, this is just disgraceful. McCoy introduces them to this 3-month-old newborn. Back on the ship, Scotty realizes that he's already wasted enough time inside a trap, so they head back to Capella IV. As they are traveling back, they get another distress call, but this time from the SS Carolina, which is registered in that sector. But Scotty decides to ignore it.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
That's very good, Scotty. It only took you 36 minutes to get to this point.
I know this saying. It was invented in Russia.
Back in the cave, we see McCoy that is absolutely exhausted from giving birth. Oh, sorry, not him. Catwoman takes a rock and knocks McCoy out in order to escape. When he wakes up, he informs the other two that she has escaped, but she also left her child behind.
I really thought she'd learn to want it.
Yes, McCoy, because it's a very well-known fact that women are most receptive when they are giving birth. Kirk and Spock leave, leaving McCoy to literally babysit. Back in the Enterprise, the sensors detect the ship that is blocking their path.
Mr. Sulu, sound battle stations. Aye, aye, sir.
After walking in circles, the Capellans finally get into this entry, and look at this poor Klingon just rolling down the hill. Mob sends one of his soldiers to scout the area in front of him, so he only walks about 12 feet ahead and then he comes back. He tells Mav that Kirk and Spock are right on plain sight behind the rocks. These two extras are here only because of the catering. Then they see that Catwoman has escaped and is coming out from one of the caves. She goes with Mav and tells him that she killed her own child and she killed the humans as well.
I killed them as they slept.
She should be dead by now. This guy just told them that they were hiding behind the rocks, and she also escaped the camp. Why is she alive?
If true, take us to them.
Right now, the Klingon seems to be the only one with half a brain, but she's got more than that. She's got attitude.
Do you doubt my word, Klingon?
Yes, at this point, every single person should be doubting your word. Once again, they know she's lying because this soldier just saw Kirk and Spock.
It is in order. She is the wife of a tier.
You know what? I give up. No. 20 minutes ago, this person had absolutely no problem with executing a pregnant woman that had done nothing wrong so far. Now this woman not only has escaped from their captivity, but she also lied about killing the other two.
Stop it. Get some help.
The Klingon decides to run in the other direction, but Mav questions his honor. Kirk takes this distraction to shoot an arrow that is so faulty that instead of hitting the target, hits the Klingon's knee. This Capellan throws one of those Klingon that can only hit bad people. Spock kills this other Capellan that God knows where he was standing. I mean, look at those arrows. They're not even sharp. This Capellan throws this Klingon at missing Spock. I mean, you could fit Scotty, Chekhov, and Uhura between the Klingon and its target. The Klingon shoots in Spock's direction, causing Kirk to have a mini heart attack. But it's okay, he's fine. Then the Klingon kills another Capellan, and then we get this very interesting exchange between Kirk and Spock.
There's just one thing I want.
The Klingon?
One of us must get him.
Revenge, Captain?
Why not?
Yes. Kirk is being driven by revenge right now. The Klingon starts threatening everyone while Mav works on his poker face. Catwoman demands the Capellans to fight back. And now Mav decides to forgive her life and sacrifice himself to the Klingon.
I give you back your life. Mine is now forfeit.
You know what? I don't care. At this point, I was already asleep.
I give you back your life. Mine is now forfeit.
Maeve surrenders himself to the Klingon. The Klingon is too stupid to use a phaser correctly and shoots up, but for some reason the raid actually reaches Maeve. A Capellan throws another Klingon to... I don't know who this guy is, but he kills him. And after a little bit of screaming, the Klingon rolls down the hill for a second time. Kirk and Spock realize that the bows and arrows are just useless and start walking downhill with knives in their hands, distracting the Capellans because the cavalry is about to arrive, and there they are, just in time. McCoy joins everyone holding this log covered in a piece of cloth. He is so excited that starts speaking in tongues, acknowledging that his real talent resides in his mind and not in his hands making bows and arrows. Spock places this very important question.
When the woman starts explaining how the new High Tier is actually Dr. McCoy's child,
We don't actually understand it ourselves, Mr. Scott.
nor does Dr. McCoy.
And now you cannot tell me that this script was not lazy. There is no explanation on how the people of Capella is going to accept this child as their own, since she is already accepting that the child is from McCoy. We even get to learn that the child is going to carry his name. How are the Capellans going to accept it? This episode had time to show us 25 seconds of Kirk taking a stroll. It had time to show us this very long exit. It even had time to show us this dark linguistics.
An obscure Earth dialect, Mr. Spock. Oochie coochie coochie coo.
But the episode doesn't take the time to answer such important questions or to answer how come Kirk is given zero fucks about prime directives. In retrospective, I can understand why you guys didn't vote for this episode, but oh my goodness, this was really slow. I had never fallen asleep with one episode of Star Trek, and all I can say is that I hope this is the very first and the very last. And remember that everything that happens in this channel is only my opinion, but since this is my channel, everything I say is 100% correct. Thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless, and bye-bye.